Is that better? Okay, that didn't work. So I thought maybe what I'll do is take you on a Google Earth tour, just so you get a little bit closer idea as to where we're going, what we're going to be seeing, and then I've got a few more details to present, and then if you've got some questions, etc., we'll be happy to handle those. Okay, so obviously we're going to start off at Rose Valley. And then this will be before, we probably usually leave 7:30, I think. We do have a schedule. We do have a website. We do have a schedule. So if I misspeak, you just check that out. But our first stop is Fort Langley. Has anybody been to Fort Langley? Actually, have any parents had their child, older child, be part of this trip already?
Yep. My brother.
Any parents come along as supervisors? No? All right, so this is Fort Langley, and it's really pretty cool. It's we'll be learning about the fur trade, and we're learning about the gold rush and so on. And so in the fort, there's all these old buildings from that era. That's the blacksmith shop. This is the cooperage where they made barrels and so on, all really important part of our early history. Oh, hey kids, remember I was telling you about the guy with the Google Earth camera?
Yeah.
That's his shadow.
Yeah.
So, Fort Langley first. And then after Fort Langley, we head off to Science World. Now, the only disadvantage with Science World was we usually get there 3:30 or so, and they close at 5, so it's kind of a mad dash, rush to try to get in as much as we can at Science World. But then from Science World, we go to the Tsawwassen Ferry, and then we take off from there, and we end up in Swartz Bay. Now, while they're on the ferry, we have our supper, and this is where they get to strap on their big boy and big girl pants, and they get to go to a cafeteria and order what they want. We give them a budget, and we don't complain if they go a couple dollars over, because there's always somebody that goes a couple bucks under. But basically, they just go line up, they order what they want. Mr. Snedden's at the cafeteria, or somebody will be at the cafeteria with a credit card paying for it all. And then we end up in Swartz Bay, and then it's off to UVic. And so that's our first day. That's the Wednesday. So Fort Langley, Science World, UVic. We get there usually 9:30, 10 o'clock. We get into the dorms, and then once we're in and unpacked, it's basically bedtime. And for the most part, the kids are ready to go at that time. So then in the morning, we eat here at the cafeteria at UVic, and they all, once again, they get to strap on the big boy and big girl pants, because they get a voucher, which is good for X amount of food, and they have to keep to that. And so they have to do a little bit of math. They have to figure out, okay, what can I actually order that's within this voucher limit? Because if they go beyond the voucher limit, then they have to pay the difference out of their pocket. And most kids, the voucher is generous. Most kids have no problem keeping within the budget of that voucher. So in the morning, what will happen is we'll drive down to downtown Victoria, and what will happen is the bus will drop us off. So this is the Royal Museum, and there's a bus lane right here that the buses will drop us off. The Parliament building is right there, right beside it. So what will happen is everybody will get off the bus. The kids will go over here to the fountain and take get a picture. I wonder if you can get a picture now. So, picture of the fountain. Right. So they'll get a group shot right here. All the parent paparazzi will click, click, click. And while they're doing that, I will be myself only. I'll be in the museum getting us registered, paid up, and organized. Once the paparazzi has had enough pictures, they'll walk over and they'll come in the side door, which is the group entrance for the museum. And from there, we'll have a couple hours in the museum. Now, it's not a guided tour. They don't, at that time of year, they don't have guided tours. So it's basically the parents, you're going to be in the parents that come, they'll be supervised a group of 5, 6 students. And so there's 3 stories of this massive building and so much to see. You're not going to see it all in 2 hours. So you kind of have to let the kids guide you as the adult. So if they really want to check out the First Nations flora, then you just sort of go there. The parents' job is just making sure that everybody sees what they want to see and everybody's safe and everybody's in the room. So after that, after the Royal Museum, then we go back to the legislature and actually go on a tour of the legislature. This is a guided tour, and it's about a half hour, 45 minutes long. And after that, we go to Bug Zoo. So Bug Zoo, what we'll do, actually I'll just back it up here. So basically what happens is we walk across the street, and then down here is a really nice promenade. So we don't go along the street, we go along this boardwalk, and we get out here. And as you can tell by all these icons are people posting pictures to Google. So it's obviously a pretty popular place. So we walk along this boardwalk, walk up the stairs, get to street level. We walk down this street, and right here is a little pedestrian walk entrance to Bug Zoo. The Bug Zoo is actually over here, but it's just a covered courtyard that we walk through. So then after Bug Zoo, we'll go back to the museum. We'll go back to the museum where the bus will be waiting for us. And from there, we're going to go to Beacon Hill, the Children's Zoo. And here, right over here, there'll be all sorts of billy goats and peacocks and all sorts of things. So it's really, as you can probably tell, it's pretty popular. The kids get to actually pet the goats. I think that's about the only thing they let you pet. The other animals you can just sort of take a look at. And then after that, this is going to be a new stop. We're going to try to go to the old cemetery. So this is going to be a guided tour. It's not going to be like a ghost stories tour. This is going to be a guided tour where they're going to show us the final resting places for people like Billy Barker, Judge Begbie, Emily Carr, like famous British Columbians, people that are relevant to our history. And so then after that, it's back to the Royal Museum, and in the Royal Museum is the IMAX building. And if they've never been to an IMAX movie, it's quite a treat. It's not like a normal movie experience. The screen is, I can't remember how many times, I'm going to say 10 times bigger. It's just monstrous. The movie, we don't know what it's going to be yet because they haven't posted, but it's not going to be like a Hollywood release. It'll be, National Geographic. It'll be an educational movie of some sort. They're usually about half an hour long. And then after IMAX, we'll head over to Chinatown. I've been to Victoria's Chinatown. It's fairly, it is quite authentic in ways. It has, this is, let me do a street view here. Hopefully this doesn't freeze. So you can see that it has this, it has the gate of Harmonious something, I forget what it is. And down the street is Don Me's restaurant. And so this is where, once again, they're going to have to strap on their big boys and big girls pants because it is going to be Chinese food. If students do have food allergies, then we do want to hear about it. If they have food preferences, not so much. So it's going to be, because I really don't, I'll be straight up, folks. I don't want, it's enough work to put this together, I don't want to say, well, I don't really like broccoli. Well, you know, then don't eat the broccoli. Okay? So if it is if it is a legitimate food allergy, food concern, that, you know, let us know. But if it's just something that they prefer, well, it's their chance to try something new. Then after supper, what will happen is we'll get a guided walking tour of Chinatown. And so it's a professor from the university that, you know, is a history professor, and he goes around and does all these tours all the time. So we've hired him to come and do the tour. And he'll take us all throughout Chinatown. And then that's pretty much it for that day. And then it's a really packed day. And then it's just going to be back to UVic, there where we'll sleep. And then the next day it's on the bus. And our stop, we have one stop other than the ferry. We have one stop, and that's in Hope, where we stop off at this really nice park. There's a sheltered area over here that if it's raining, we can, you know, hang out there. And then they do have a playground that we let the kids blow off some steam for a few minutes. And then after that, it's back home. So that's about it. And so, you know, I just saved you several $100s as parents, so you don't have to take a tour now. You've lived it virtually. But that's sort of it. That's the tour in a nutshell. So let me just.
You want some lights, or are we
No,
gonna?
I'm good here.
Oh, you're still good. Okay.
All right. So what the cost? It includes all the transportation, all the meals. Now Wednesday, kids have to bring their own bag lunch, but after that meal, everything else is included. The accommodations, all the venue entries, everything. And so we've been able to keep the costs down over the years because our PAC has been incredibly generous, and we've been able to secure funding from the government. So this year, the final cost is, unfortunately, it's unknown, because once again, as you know, we're waiting for the results of our application. So we think with the application, we think the cost will be $275. If we are unsuccessful, then the cost we anticipate to be $335. If the supervisor, the chaperones, their costs are included, so that's included in the total cost. So, just want to talk a little bit about, we've gotten feedback over the years, and I just want to sort of paint a bit of a picture if I can. So if you've ever made a special meal, like Christmas dinner or whatever, you spend a lot of time cooking, making, blah, 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 and then you get somebody, and you serve it, and you're proud of it, and you poured your heart and soul in it, and then somebody goes, oh.
Every day of my life.
Okay, so then you kind of know where I'm at. So this trip is really a lot of work. Even though we did all the heavy lifting years ago, a lot of the heavy lifting, there's still heavy lifting to happen as we organize and stuff like that. And so when we receive criticism about the trip, it makes it more challenging. And the criticism we tend to get tends to come around, oh, why did Mr. So-and-so get picked and I didn't get picked to be a supervisor? And the truth of the matter is there's lots of situations that we have to look at, and these situations aren't for public disclosure. And so it may not make the most sense to you that you didn't get picked and somebody else did, but I just got to tell you and ask you to trust us, because we're trying to do the best that we can and try to make everybody's trip as successful as it can possibly be. If you do have a real concern, even though I'm sort of painting a picture, I don't want to hear about, I don't want to hear criticism. I don't have a problem if you have a concern and it needs to be addressed. So please come and talk to us in those cases. Now, the other thing that we tend to get lots of feedback from is, Johnny's not with Billy and he's the best, and they're such a good fit, or Johnny is with Billy and they're a terrible fit. So I need you to understand what the groups are. What the groups are, all these activities that we're doing, they're basically big, large group activities, okay? So these groups, all they are, for the most part, is whittling down a group of 42 kids into a manageable, bite-sized piece of 5 kids that one adult can keep their eyes on. So they're gonna have the same experiences, they'll even have the same experiences with all 30, 42 kids at the same time. It's just that as soon as we put them in a group, sometimes the wheels go off and it's like, are you kidding me? You know, so if you can try to help them to understand that, like the group is really just for the parent to keep their eyes on you. It's not like summer camp where you're, you know, gonna share bare your soul. It's you're there and you're just being organized and supervised in a reasonable way. So once again, we have lots of situations. Friendships change, so we've learned at in our first year to not make groups until June. We base these things on our June friendships, because if you're a parent, you know friendships ebb and flow. And so it's going to be the June friendship, it's the June flavor that we're going to be going with. Okay. So, any questions so far? Okay, I'll keep on going, we'll have time for questions after. So parent supervisors, the reason we're having this meeting now is that we discovered that the criminal record check is taking longer and longer and longer. And so we felt we better do this thing now so people can, you know, the people that want to come in as supervisors can actually get a criminal record check, and we don't end up, you know, shooting ourselves in the foot by having that person's record check not come through in time for the trip. So it can take about 3 months. Now there will be information coming to you hopefully this week. We do, you know, we look for people that have experience with kids. There's a bunch of criteria that we do look for, and it'll be spelled out for you. But one thing that you need to know is that this is a 24-hour job when you come along. There is no me time, okay? The application was there. And I did mention already that, you know, sometimes people just can't understand why, you know, hey, that guy, why you pick that? He doesn't even cut his lawn. Like, why are you picking him? So there are reasons for it. I just got to ask you to trust us on that. And the other thing, I'll be straight up, and I see that there aren't any kids here, so I'll be really blunt. We don't want to be supervising the supervisors. And this has happened in the past. We've had people, we do want people that are going to be okay with not smoking, because yes, we've had parents that actually lit up in front of the kids and had a smoke. We don't want people that are drinking, and you know, yes, we've had adults sneak beer along on the trip. And we want you to be inclusive, because yes, we've had adults show up at Starbucks, buy their kid at Starbucks, and then let the rest of the kids are supervised and just sit there and watch. So we want you to be sacrificing type of people for those 3 days, because that, to be honest with you, that's what it's about. Now, if you aren't, you know, if you know, it just doesn't work out that you're selected as a supervisor, but you still want to come along, you know, it's a free country. You can come along, but you do need to know a couple things. So first of all, the costs are all on you. You cannot stay in the dorms with the kids for a bunch of reasons, criminal record check being one, but there are other reasons. So even if you have a criminal record check, the answer is going to be no. You can't stay in the dorm with the kids. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but your child's behavior often does change when you're around. When I was a kid, my behavior and my behavior of my friends tended to improve. It doesn't always work that way. I don't know if you've noticed that, but oftentimes kids' behavior doesn't actually improve just because they're around parents. So if you're going to be sort of floating around as a tourist, we're going to ask you to be in the background. Okay, just be a fly on the wall. Try not to, you know, get in there, you know, and you know, distract your child from what's going on. It's normal to worry, and trust me, we worry too. We worry a lot. We spend a lot of time thinking about this trip, planning for it, thinking worst case scenario, because that's our job. And so, you know, we do encourage kids to bring along cell phones. We have no problem at all with kids bringing along cell phones. However, we're not going to be responsible for the bills. So, you know, if you want to send your child along with a device, by all means, it's fine. There is internet access at UVic, but we will not be giving the kids the passwords for those, because we cannot supervise 42 kids at 11 o'clock at night with the devices. So they'll, you know, if they bring a device along, and I encourage it, because it's a long bus ride, And it's a lot better if if they've got some screen time and over the 4 hours. And they're gonna wanna take pictures. So, as a matter of fact, at Fort Langley's, they've, from what I understand, they've changed their approach from the station's approach to a kind of a scavenger hunt kind of thing. And to prove you found the, whatever it is, you take a picture and you bring it back. So, so devices are really encouraged, but they're not gonna be encouraged at night. I didn't actually ask Mr. Sneddon this, but I'm assuming that we're gonna be okay to post pictures and stuff on our Facebook page as we go. Is that gonna be okay, Mr. Sneddon?
Sure.
Yeah, so we're gonna try to keep, our Facebook page updated with pictures, videos, and stuff like that, so you can see sort of what's going on. If you got questions, just you can go to our website, and on our website we've got my favorite page, the frequently asked questions page. So if there's anything that you thought I should have answered, I probably have answered here at some point. We've got like 32 and counting. So that's really about all I've got. Hopefully you've got a better picture of what the 3 days will be all about. You've got a better picture of what our concerns are and what we sort of are putting into it. Are there any questions? Maybe we can get the lights and respond to the lights on. So are there any questions?
Well, just in case people from Mrs. Coop's class were wondering, Mrs. Coop is planning to attend. We'll put a teacher on call in for the grade 4s that are in that room. So she'll be with her 5s. And Mr. Sturl, of course, and in the past I've gone along or I've sent my vice principal. I don't have a vice principal to send, so we're looking at maybe sending one more adult to. It's nice to have another adult from the school, another staff member, a floater.
Yeah, so the kid, we go for a 1 to 5 ratio. So there's lots of adult involved. There's lots of people around, trying to make sure kids are safe, making good choices, that sort of thing. Any other questions?
How many supervisors are there?
Well, if we have 42, we're probably going to end up having 9-ish, probably parents plus staff. So 13, maybe 12, 13, something like that.
It's like one adult per
Per 5.
Per
One
5.
adult per 5 students.
One per
Well, you'll have the volunteers and then staff.
It's one parent for every 5 kids, and then the teachers that way are able to float between all those groups
Right.
in their class to solve problems and help.
Right. So when we are at Fort Langley or the museum or whatever, I'm not supervising kids. I'm going around making sure things are working out the way they work out. Parents, what we'll do is we'll exchange cell phone numbers. Everybody will have everybody else's cell phone number. You need to get in touch with somebody. You text me. If I don't respond, you text someone. Like there'll be a wealth of contact information given to the parents. Any other
Can be
questions?
given, like, in case they get lost, like some sort of contact information for.
Yeah, we also usually give kids a little business card size with the staff cell phone information.
Okay.
So, if they can't get a hold of myself, they get a hold of Mrs. Cooper, they get a hold of somebody, and then that person has everybody else's cell phone information.
Are we talking about fundraising stuff tonight, or?
Well, traditionally, we have never done fundraising, and for a bunch of reasons. For myself personally, it's enough plates spinning in the air that I don't really need to have my hands into another pot. So we haven't, as I said, we haven't done it before, and if it were to happen, it would need to be 100% parent-driven, organized, whole bit. Part of the problem with the fundraising that we've learned from other fundraisers from other schools is, well, it's almost like anything, right? It's like 20% of the people doing 80% of the work, and so it sometimes has become a point of friction where, I'm busting my hump doing all this, and then your kid gets 100% of the proceeds, and what have you done? So it's a political it's difficult politically to get, to pull it off and make it right. And so that's one of the other reasons that we've just said, you know, like, we'd rather not. Any other questions? Well, I mean, if you do have questions, email, phone, what have you, we'll update our FAQ. If more questions come, we add to it. This week, as I said, we'll try to get some information out for people that are interested in joining us as supervisors, because, you know, we want to get that ball rolling before spring break so people can actually get record checks started, and then, you know, we'll go from there. Once we figured out who the parents are, then we'll have a separate parent meeting just to go over like the nitty-gritty of, you know, the adults involved in the trip. Yeah.
Do you need more male or female volunteers?
You know, I guess ideally, it works out beautifully if we have gender, like if the genders work out perfectly, just because of the sleeping arrangements. So, but that's not to say that if you're a father and it's a daughter that you have in grade 5 that you can't come. We certainly have, you know, done that. And this year with the smaller size, it looks like we'll probably end up being in one building, whereas in the past we've had a boys building and a girls building, and that's where the handoff became a little bit clumsy. You know, like, okay, I look after these boys, but I'm a mom, so now tonight I'll look after these girls who don't know who I am, perhaps. And so because we're going to hopefully be in one building, it should be a little smaller. You know, you'll only be a floor different if your gender is not the same as your child's. Any other questions? Okay, well, I'll say the meeting's over, and I'll hang around in case there's a question that someone thinks of later or wants to ask privately or whatever. And like I said, there'll be information coming home this week, and if you have any other questions that pop up, just feel free to shoot us an email, and we'll try our best to answer quickly. So thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you.